All right, folks, the dust has settled. We've got landing spots. We've got some trades that have happened over the course of the NFL draft. It's time to dig into true projection season. The schedules are about to be released for the NFL, but historically, we're entering a little bit of a lull, a little bit of a buy low period here in May and June before we start getting into OTAs, mini camps, and preseason, and then the regular season in September. So we're going to look at the biggest winners and losers from the NFL draft this past weekend and look at who I'm buying and selling now, who's moving up, who's moving down. We're starting right now. Let's dig in. So real quick, welcome to the Football Card Quest. My name is Andy. If you're new here and you want to learn more about football card collecting and investing and how everything that happens in the NFL draft and free agency in the offseason affects the values of football card prices and then all the nuances and variances and all the really cool sports card stuff, make sure you hit that subscribe button, little bell notification icon so you don't miss out on a single step on the quest. Alright, so we're going to kind of go through these guys in an overview, kind of move through them pretty quick, and in the coming weeks, we're going to really dig deep into these players, teams, conferences, divisions to get a better understanding. Plus, the schedules are coming out soon for 2022, which is really exciting to really paint those projections pretty closely. But we look at the market, obviously, going into round one, there was a couple big trades. The first one was Marquise Brown from the Baltimore Ravens, who got 145 targets from Lamar Jackson last year and Tyler Huntley, and goes to the Arizona Cardinals. This right off the bat, reuniting him with his college quarterback, Kyler Murray. And so that was an immediate boom because Kyler Murray is a better deep ball thrower. He also throws the ball more than Lamar Jackson, who's on a run-heavy team in the Baltimore Ravens. So Kyler Murray came out of that first round a winner only for today you look at his stock and it really wasn't immediately jumping up. These cards are still trading for a decent amount, but it's not something that immediately took off. You can see that his PSA across the board for his base prism are still down as his cards got astronomically expensive 2020. But, coming into today, you find out that DeAndre Hopkins is popped for PEDs, performance-enhancing drugs, and he's going to be out for 6 weeks now. He is going to be out until week 7. So obviously these targets have got to go somewhere, right? And people are going to start getting excited trying to bet on AJ Green, kind of taking over that role for DeAndre Hopkins those first 6 weeks. And he's obviously way up there on the Hall of Fame marker list and what he's already done in his career to this point. But he has definitely lost a step, over his younger self. And you can see that there is, some decent looking autograph cards that are pretty cheap for him. He's an interesting flyer, at least for a short-term flip in September. I think he's going to see a little bit of stock increase. Of course, Rondale Moore, who's an electric, slot-style receiver. You do get a little concerned because his snap share, his opportunities went down the second half of the season last year. However, there was a lot going on there at the depth chart, and Kyler Murray also missed some games. And you also had Christian Kirk muddying the waters out of the slot with Rondale Moore, so now he's in Jacksonville. You bring over Marquise Brown. I think you put him on the outside. I think people are going to get excited about Marquise Brown. We've seen his sold volume go up. We've seen, his values go up a little bit. I think that's going to continue to climb until September. I also think Kyler Murray, he was going up, and then this thing with DeAndre Hopkins kind of bringing him back down. I think he's going to kind of flatline. I think there's going to be some opportunities to invest in him because surely they do have a solid team overall. I do think they make a pretty good push this year, although they are in a very difficult division, the NFC West, with the Rams, former Super Bowl champs. But certainly, and they come out of this. They came out of the draft winners, only then to lose DeAndre Hopkins for the first 6 weeks, which is rough. On the other hand, the Baltimore Ravens had a phenomenal draft, right? So overall, from a real NFL perspective, they won. They really strengthened that defense, right? They do lose Marquise Brown, but that makes, Lamar Jackson just... He's a one-man show a lot of times, right? You never know when he's going to tuck it and run himself. Plus, it's a run-heavy team. But you look at guys like Devin Duvernay. They're definitely going to bump Devin Duvernay up on the depth chart. He's going to now become the wide receiver too. There's some really interesting deals on Devin Duvernay. This trade absolutely makes Devin Duvernay a winner, bumps him up on the depth chart. He goes from being almost virtually free in fantasy drafts and virtually undrafted and having extremely cheap cards to now actually getting on the board and having some demand behind it. And I think that's going to continue to climb, and he could actually go out and overperform those expectations, as he's a better comp to Marquise Brown than Rashad Bateman. Rashad Bateman, who's definitely going to get some hype from this as he now becomes the clear wide receiver one. He is a bigger wide receiver, more powerful wide receiver, got that explosiveness, that contested catch ability. He's going to be used a lot in the intermediate short sectors of the field. Of course, Mark Andrews, the tight end one from last year, his stock is going to continue to go up as well, as his floor, right? The worst we can expect from him is a tight end one. Like he's now looks like going to be the bona fide tight end one ahead of Travis Kelce again for 2022. Certainly a safe investment from a tight end perspective. The other blockbuster trade in the first round was A.J. Brown from the Tennessee Titans to the Philadelphia Eagles. This was an absolute monster trade that sent the market going wild for Jalen Hurts. We saw his buy it now volume get almost to that of Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow, the hobby darlings, right? And so incredible, right? Incredible hype demand for Jalen Hurts. This is going to continue to climb as A.J. Brown has come out and said, hey, that's my best friend, dude. I love Jalen Hurts. He's a fantastic quarterback. And now you look at the trio of weapons that the Philadelphia Eagles have. Plus, they did good in the draft, man. They strengthened the offensive line. They strengthened the defensive line. They strengthened the linebackers, the secondary. So, all in all, the Philadelphia's did a really great stuff here in the draft. And A.J. Brown is just a generational wide receiver talent. We could see the buy it now demand volume go up significantly for him. And he's definitely seeing a hype boost from this. I think you talk about in terms of quarterback performance and quarterback athletic talent. I think Jalen Hurts it's about a lateral shift between Ryan Tannehill and Jalen Hurts. You definitely like the rushing upside that Jalen Hurts provides. You definitely like the larger fan base in Philadelphia, so there's more collectors. A lot of people that want to go out and get A.J. Brown cards now because he is a Philadelphia Eagle. More people want to get Jalen Hurts cards because he's got A.J. Brown as a Philadelphia Eagle. All in all, that's a win for both of those guys. And then what did Tennessee do? Well, they immediately drafted A.J. Brown's replacement, who's an A.J. Brown prototype coming out of Arkansas. Treylon Burks, guys. This guy, incredible athlete. Can virtually play anywhere on the football field. He's got an incredible ability to separate against man coverage. He's got 4XL size hands, guys, a massive catch radius, massive hands, burst, explosiveness. He's got that yards after catch, broken tackle ability, much like A.J. Brown, ability to win all over the field. There are some Sage and Lee products out there available for him with autographs. He's a very interesting college prospect to invest in here this summer because he's going to step right in and take over a wide receiver one role in his rookie year. They've clearly said that, look, this is A.J. Brown's one-for-one replacement, and A.J. Brown was a 30 to 40% target share guy whenever he was in Tennessee, and that's immediately what Treylon Burks is going to do. And then, in the third round, they finally got Malik Willis, right? Atlanta passed on him, got Desmond Ridder. Pittsburgh passed on him, they got Kenny Pickett. Malik Willis finally went at the end of the third round to the Tennessee Titans. Can you guys imagine the mobility upside that Malik Willis has in an RPO-style offense with Derrick Henry, that run-pass option with Derrick Henry? So certainly a guy you want to look out for. But the thing is, Ryan Tannehill is firmly the starter, right? He's going to have a pretty good leash on him. He's going to be firmly the starter for the foreseeable future. More like Malik is really going to sit behind Ryan Tannehill, learn the systems in the NFL, and then we could probably see him start sometime in 2023, 2024 at the latest. So he's a guy that by the time he does start, is going to have a lot of his NFL product out available. I'm not buying Malik now because he did fall to the third round, but I will be investing in him once his NFL product is out. But I think that the Titans literally hit the reset button on that wide receiver position because they couldn't afford to pay A.J. Brown the money he wanted. He signed a $100 million contract with $57 million guaranteed with the Philadelphia Eagles. Reunite with his best friend Jalen Hurts. Big winners there. And then you look at the Jets. The Jets had a really solid draft, guys. Took Sauce Gardner with their first pick, arguably the best corner in the league besides Derek Stingley in the draft, besides Derek Stingley. Then they went Garrett Wilson in the first round, which we're going to talk about in a second, obviously. But the biggest loser from the draft, the Jets selection at number 36 early in the second round, is Breece Hall from Iowa State, the number one rookie running back in this draft class from a rushing and a receiving standpoint, a true bell cow at Iowa State, expected to step right in and take over 60 to 70% of the opportunity share in the Jets offense. This guy was absolutely dominant at Iowa State, able to do it all. Well, this is going to completely crush Michael Carter's stock. So, if you can, I would be accepting offers and kind of taking those offers and selling some Michael Carter stock that you do have, because Breece Hall is the future in the Jets. And so absolutely Michael Carter is one of the biggest losers from the NFL draft. And then you look at the wide receivers. Obviously Garrett Wilson is going to incredibly help Zach Wilson. Ultimately, Zach Wilson comes out of this draft as a winner, like we predicted, just because of all those picks they had. They did a pretty good job with them. They drafted weapons around Zach Wilson. They drafted Sauce Gardner. They drafted a tackle in round 4, an edge rusher. So I think they did pretty good with their premium draft capital. I think people are going to get excited about Zach Wilson. His second year, big improvement. Now you got Garrett Wilson, you got Breece Hall, you got improvements around the team. Now, hey guys, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you leave us a thumbs up and leave us a comment in the comment section below and let us know who your favorite winner and loser was from the draft and who you're buying right now, man. Now back to the action. Let's see what you can do with it. I surely think that his stock is going to go up into September. And if you can still find deals that are comping out way lower than all the other 5 first-round 2021 rookie quarterbacks, it's something very interesting to look at and invest in. You can see there's an elevated sales volume. More cards are selling for Zach Wilson now, so it may be a little bit too late, but historically, we're going into a little bit of a low in May and June, and you may be able to pick off or snipe some auctions that are ending lower than normal, than what's comping the past 90 days. We're at a peak, coming off a peak at the draft here, guys, so it's good to to understand that in the full cycle of things, that's kind of where we're at. Obviously, Zach Wilson, a big winner from this draft. Garrett Wilson, he's going to step right in and take 20-25% target share. It's going to suppress the value of Corey Davis. Denzel Mims is almost absolute a ghost at this point, almost absolute a bust. I wouldn't be surprised if they cut him from the team, or you never hear from him again. It's going to be Garrett Wilson and Elijah Moore. They're going to be the 2 main receivers in that offense. Then you look at Corey Davis kind of sprinkled in there. Let's talk about the Seattle Seahawks. So they drafted Kenneth Walker in the 2nd round, which is an interesting pick when they already had Rashad Penny, who looked really great in his final 7-8 games of the season last year. Looked incredible, right? And we're talking about 2018 rookie Rashad Penny. Is he finally back to full form? Well, they draft Kenneth Walker. Obviously, kind of telling us that they have a need there, right? They have a need there. They want to fill that hole. Kenneth Walker also arguably the best pure runner in the league. He's a kind of guy that's going to run inside, outside. He's going to ground and pound. He is the perfect guy for Pete Carroll to just go with a run-heavy offense, just like he likes. This is going to suppress the stock of Rashad Penny, Chris Carson. I'm looking to sell those guys. I'm looking to move that into Kenneth Walker. You can see there's still some pretty good prices on Rashad Penny stuff right now. So if you can, I would accept those offers. I'd be selling them, honestly. I think Kenneth Walker is going to walk in and at least take a 50-50 workload with Rashad Penny and Chris Carson, and it could be a running back by committee, and we kind of want to avoid those situations anyway. There's not going to be a 60-70% work share for any one of these guys, probably, and they're going to be rotated in and out, and you may even see some DJ Dallas in there and Travis Homer, it's really interesting. I'm looking to invest in Kenneth Walker for potentially like 2023. 2023, I can see him taking over this backfield. I can see the Seahawks being in a much better situation. Very low playoff probability for them this year. Chris Carson cards are already dirt cheap, so you're kind of just, selling where you can, potentially hold, throw them on your wall, personal collection. I know he's helped some people do well in fantasy in the past. Let's talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers, because they drafted the only quarterback in the 1st round in Kenny Pickett. All right, the hometown hero from Pitt. They got the extra year in Pitt and made the most out of it with his final year of college performance thanks to COVID. And he gets drafted by Pittsburgh in the 1st round. They don't feel that the small hands are a problem, and maybe not, but this is definitely going to put a squeeze on Mitchell Trubisky, as he's going to be on a very tight leash. This is going to be a serious, training camp preseason competition between Mitchell Trubisky, who got paid a backup quarterback salary, and now Kenny Pickett, who got drafted in the first round. So that draft capital tells you that fan base is not going to put up with very many mistakes, if at all, from Mitchell Trubisky. This is definitely going to put Trubisky in a squeeze. He may not even start week 1. There's a possibility. However, I think he will, just based on the experience he's got in the NFL, start week 1. But he's going to be on a very, very tight leash, guys. It's not going to last long. So I'm looking forward to sell my Trubisky cards in August, in September, hoping that he has one of those really good looking training camps and preseasons. He becomes the starter, and at that point we see his stock go up the most. He becomes the most relevant he's been, and that is when I look to sell, right? On the other hand, obviously, Kenny Pickett's the future in Pittsburgh, and it's yet to be seen what he can bring to the table. What does his potential outlook look like? Is it going to be that of like a Ryan Tannehill? If so, I mean, it's still with the market in Pittsburgh. I think he can make some money on his cards in his rookie season, you know, so it's interesting to maybe have some of his collegiate stuff this summer to anticipate, you know, flipping in September or whenever he does potentially get a starting gig in Pittsburgh, especially with that draft capital. But what Pittsburgh ultimately did here is draft George Pickens from Georgia in the second round. This guy is an absolute dog, a total competitor who's going to win against press coverage, is going to win on the outside, is going to go up and take up the top off the defense and get up and get those contested catches, break tackles, make touchdowns. Pittsburgh does a really good job of recruiting wide receivers, and they drafted George Pickens. Not only did they do that, but then they drafted Calvin Austin from Memphis in round 4. They drafted 2 wide receivers that kind of comp out similar to Chase Claypool. The squeeze is not going to be on Deontay Johnson. Johnson's job is just fine. Najee's job just fine. There's going to be plenty of hype for those guys. Chase Claypool better get his act together. The Pittsburgh Steelers are sending a clear message that Claypool is on the verge of being kicked out. You know, they have a very good reputation of recruiting and farming wide receiver talent, and they're sending a clear message that this is what they need. They need competitors in the wide receiver depth chart, and Chase Claypool is their weak link. So I'd be selling my Chase Claypool cards right now, guys. If you can take profits, if people are making offers wanting to buy Chase Claypool, go ahead and sell, guys. I'm selling Chase Claypool at will. He's a loser from this draft. It's become obvious that George Pickens is the man. I mean, you just look at him. He's just super physical, dominant style wide receiver who's going to compete, and he's going to garner respect in that depth chart. And there's some college stuff out there for him I find pretty interesting, like stuff autographed like this. Very interesting. It's not a bad price point. I think he's definitely a guy that could break out in his rookie year. There's virtually nothing out for Calvin Austin right now. It's a little too early. Got to wait for that 2022 Prism Collegiate Draft Picks that's coming out in June. The Bowman's just now, you know, the Bowman first, and some of these guys aren't even in the Bowman first, but that's coming out, it's circulating. My hobby box is in the mail, it's coming. But total squeeze on Chase Claypool here. Big loser from the draft. Also, Marlon Mack. Marlon Mack is another loser from the draft, as the Houston Texans at first, you know, Marlon Mack is a guy who had some hype, man. He breathed some new life whenever he was signed. You know, he finally got out of that depth chart in the Colts and came to the Texans, and he looked like he was going to be the RB1, but it didn't last long. It didn't last long, guys. The Houston Texans, and they waited till round 4, but they drafted a pretty solid running back from University of Florida, Dameon Pierce. And I think that he's going to put a total squeeze on Marlon Mack, which we haven't even really seen play in the last 2 years. So certainly, you know, with that age factor, that rookie status, the health, you know, the explosiveness, that whole 9 yards, I think you're going to see a total squeeze on Marlon Mack. And I think he came away from this draft as a loser. A notable mention there. There's very little out for Dameon Pierce as well, but you can see the guy is a stud, man. He's definitely going to gobble. He's going to garner carries. He's going to garner carries. He's going to garner targets out of the backfield. He's going to be relevant, man. The other thing that the Houston Texans did, which I think puts a squeeze on guys like Nico Collins. Brandon Cook's going to be safe. He's got the experience. He's got the speed, the route running, that whole 9 yards. Brandon Cook's safe, but they did add John Mechie, right? They did add John Mechie here from Alabama wide receiver. Interesting prospect, man. It doesn't look. He actually has some very interesting athletic traits, and he's certainly a guy to watch out for. Davis Mills can really throw the ball well. He could take over that number 2 role ahead of Nico Collins, Chris Conley. So a guy that I wanted to point out there. Ultimately, Davis Mills does come out of this draft as a winner because of the weapons that they added to him, because of the offensive line help in drafting Kenyon Green in the first round, pick 15. So that was a big pick from Texas A&M. They also drafted another tackle in round 6. So Davis Mills comes out of this draft as a winner, and his stock should continue to go up. I think he's absolutely a guy that's going to go as a sleeper in fantasy drafts with all these weapons and stuff. He could come out and overperform his expectations, and he's got a very good deep ball, very good throwing mechanics. I could see him getting some hype. All right, the next big winner from the draft is Jared Goff on the Detroit Lions. Honestly, that whole team, they did really well in the draft. They got their hometown guy, Aiden Hutchinson. Then they went and got the speedster from Alabama, Jamison Williams, arguably one of the best wide receiver talents in the draft. Strengthened the offensive line as well. Overall, Detroit Lions put a lot of stuff together in this draft to get people excited about the former number 1 overall pick from 2016. New coaching, Dan Campbell is ready to take these guys to the next level, and a lot of people are going to think the same thing. I mean, the Detroit Lions have been one of those teams that have been building in the trenches and kind of building up, and maybe this year they can put some wins together. Certainly it's going to lead to some hype heading into September. So a big winner from this draft is Jared Goff. I think his stock continues to rise into September, at which point I think is a good time to go ahead and sell. I still don't see the Lions in the NFC North beating out the Vikings or the Packers to get to the playoffs, but I do think they become competitive this year, maybe win 8, 9, 10 games, which could definitely lead to some interesting hype demand for Jared Goff, and his prices are still, very cheap. I would look for some deals, potentially flip in September. It's important to note that, DeAndre Swift, I think, should be one of the most hyped running backs as well. He's certainly going to have more hype. His fantasy relevance, his domination in that backfield in Detroit, his relevance in the receiving and rushing game once Jamison Williams steps on the field, who is injured because he's coming off an ACL tear from the SEC championship game at Alabama, so he's not going to start the season. However, he's going to put a squeeze on DJ Chark, right? He's mostly comparable to that field stretcher, deep ball, take the top off a defense type of guy. He's going to put a squeeze on DJ Chark's stock. I'd be looking to, kind of flip DJ Chark or just be prepared to hold him. He's only on a 1-year deal with Detroit before he potentially moves somewhere else. So I think Jamison Williams is the future there in Detroit. DJ Chark moves somewhere else. So he's a guy that kind of looked to buy in October, November after Jamison Williams comes on the field, starts taking over like 15, 20% at least targets. Amon-Ra St. Brown safe. So, but I'm not buying him right now because I do think that there'll be better times to buy him in October, November. Overall, though, Jared Goff, a big winner from this draft. Now, a guy that I think is a loser, certainly, is Marcus Mariota on the Atlanta Falcons, right? In the first round, he was a winner because they drafted athletic freak phenom from USC, Drake London, the top wide receiver taken in the draft in the first round, and they spent their first pick on this at pick 8, and so very interesting here. Not a lot for him, but clearly if you do have some autograph stuff for him, you can find them cheap. He's going to step immediately in and be the wide receiver 1, and he's going to be the Julio Jones in the Atlanta offense. That's what they drafted him to be, and so certainly there may be some hype for Marcus Mariota. The reason why I say he's a loser is because they drafted Desmond Ridder at the beginning of the 3rd round, or maybe the middle of the 3rd round, but they drafted Desmond Ridder to be his successor. Desmond Ridder is an exact clone of Mariota. Mariota's on a backup quarterback salary deal for 1 year. It's a prove-it deal. So there's going to be a tight leash on him. The fan base is going to want that rookie QB who flashed big at the combine. He's an exact clone of Mariota. So I don't get super excited about Drake London yet. I'm not super excited about Kyle Pitts, although he's still tight end 1, right? He's still going to command 20-25% targets. I think he's safe. I think it temper expectations a little bit. We'll see how Mariota plays. He's flashed, man. He can be good. He can run. He can throw. We'll see. He's never been that guy to really push the ball down the field. He may not be able to take full advantage of what Drake London brings to the team. So I temper expectations there. But, of course, with the draft pick of the Mariota clone and Desmond Ridder, man, this is definitely going to put a squeeze on Mariota if he doesn't perform well or he can't beat out Ridder in the preseason. Then they're going to put Desmond Ridder in the game. So I think Mariota starts the season, and I think there's going to be some hype there. Once he's announced a bona fide starter in training camp, that's kind of when I'm looking to sell my Mariotas. Another winner from this draft, absolutely, Christian McCaffrey and the Carolina Panthers. Christian McCaffrey, you're going to see some hype build for Christian McCaffrey. He's now going to be firmly implanted in fantasy drafts right behind Jonathan Taylor. We're seeing an increased sales volume. His prices are going to start going back up to the #1 RB status that they were back in 2020 because the Carolina Panthers spent their first pick in the first round, of their only pick in the first 3 rounds, on Ike Ekwonu, the pancake blocking. He was nicknamed the Pancake King. This guy grew up in Charlotte. He's a hometown boy, went to North Carolina State, infamous for his pancake blocks. He's one of the best run-stuffing tackle offensive linemen out of the NFL draft. So incredible asset for Christian McCaffrey to have there in Carolina. This is going to lead to one of the biggest hype increases, I think, for Christian McCaffrey since 2020. And if he can be healthy and come out of the gate somewhat strong, I think people are going to be really excited about him in September. He has a good 1-2 games, goes back to that bell cow status. Boom, that's when I sell. I'm not looking to hold them long term. I still think the outlook for the Panthers to make the playoffs this year is low. Rookie quarterbacks don't hit very much. They're still stuck with Sam Darnold. People are buying Sam Darnold cards. I can't believe, look how much someone paid for a PSA 10 National Treasures numbered out of 99. They did draft Matt Corral in the 3rd round of the draft. So spend some draft capital on Matt Corral. And Matt Corral is definitely going to be coming in the game this year if Sam Darnold cannot get his act together in the first few weeks. And so Matt Corral is absolutely someone that I want to look at potentially flipping because, we see this happen all the time with rookie quarterbacks, especially a guy who's a gamer. This guy's a fierce competitor. This guy's not afraid to throw the ball down the field. You've got good weapons, right? You've got some good weapons with DJ Moore leading the way, Robbie Anderson, Terrace Marshall. You've got some very interesting weapons in Carolina. You put Matt Corral back there. There's going to be some excitement, some hype, certainly a squeeze and a tight leash on Darnold. But once he's supplanted by Corral, Darnold's done, guys. Darnold's done. So I would go ahead and try to start selling Darnold as you can. There may be some hype if he's announced a starter heading into September. He should be. Ultimately, it's going to be Christian McCaffrey's show, but Darnold should have some hype, and you never know. Maybe he could flash week 1 or something like that. We see the schedules, and at that point, you got to sell Darnold. You got to sell Darnold if you're holding it. You don't want to be holding on those big investments. You don't want to be spending $1,500 on Sam Darnold cards at this point. I did not like the Washington Commanders draft. I think a big loser from this draft is Antonio Gibson. He's now going to be put on a squeeze because we were hoping that he'd get that 60-70% opportunity share. They almost got rid of Jerick McKinnon, right? They almost got rid of Jerick McKinnon. He almost signed a deal with Buffalo, came back the next day, boom, he's back. Antonio Gibson goes back to that kind of 60-40 split with McKinnon, but we needed him to get the rushing and the receiving work. Now they drafted Brian Robinson. They spent some significant draft capital on Brian Robinson from Alabama. He's going to be a running back who is a bruiser, man. He's very good on the inside, like that inside zone runner, between the tackles grinder. He's good at moving the chains. We saw him break a ton of tackles at Alabama. You can see people are buying. He comes with the helmet as well from Alabama, so he's got that college pedigree, that coaching from Nick Saban style offense. So, hey, people are going to be buying Brian Robinson. People are going to be getting more excited about him. He's definitely going to step right in and take 20-30% of those carries. So now you just put Antonio Gibson in more of a squeeze, potentially 3-headed running back monster in Washington. I don't want any part of it. And not only that, I want to liquidate my Antonio Gibson stock. It's not a great outlook right now for him. I want to also hold on Terry McLaurin. I don't think he's a big loser. I think they did draft Jahan Dotson, who's a very interesting wide receiver prospect from Penn State, who can be electric. I think he's more comparable to Curtis Samuel, and I think that was kind of who they're looking to kind of fill that hole. Or Curtis Samuel was supposed to be last year. If he can't step up and finally get to that position this year, then Jahan Dotson is going to take over that role. Terry McLaurin's safe, but he is going to the final year of his rookie contract, and he's going to demand a lot of money. What we've seen with wide receivers now in the NFL, Terry McLaurin is honestly he's a buy hold for me because I think he's going to be on a new team in 2023. Ultimately, I think the Commanders are going to have not a great year with Carson Wentz behind center, and they're not going to make the playoffs. And I think I'll be able to buy Terry McLaurin for very cheapest he'll probably be around October, November, December, when all the limelight is on the other teams. You look at Carson Wentz though. If you got him, I'm trying to sell. If you got him and people are getting excited because he's got a starting job in Washington on the Commanders, they did draft Sam Howell. So they drafted Sam Howell, another guy that can come and compete, mobile, can throw the ball, another rookie force that was drafted in the first 4 rounds that could just be that could supplant him, right? That means competition for Carson Wentz, right? If he sprains both ankles at one time, they're bringing Sam Howell in, and then Carson Wentz is out, and we can potentially flip some Sam Howell cards in that way. You know, it's very likely. Honestly, the New England Patriots had a pretty bad draft. They got graded pretty bad. I think they reached on some guys. I think if you own Mac Jones, obviously there's going to be hype there. Bill Belichick, New England, but they're in a difficult division. I see them now finishing 3rd or 4th in that division. I think this might be the worst year that New England has yet. Just based on the players they drafted, based on the key components they lost on their team, and just based on the fact that New England is got to win for Mac Jones to keep that hype going, right? He's not the kind of guy that's going to go up and put out a lot of flashy numbers. His stock is contingent upon New England winning. I don't think that's going to be there for them, so I am selling. Aaron Rodgers, though, came away from this draft as a winner. They finally got that wide receiver weapon that he's been wanting. They almost dodged him again until he called up early 2nd round and said, guys, what the heck are you doing? You just went defense, and the end of the 1st round. I thought you were going to get me a weapon. They made up for it. They moved up in the 2nd round early to get Christian Watson. This guy's an athletic freak from North Dakota State University. Bison's there. This guy is a very interesting prospect, very interesting build, man. He's got ability to take handoffs out of the backfield. He's got the ability to go shallow, intermediate, deep, man. He's going to put a squeeze on Sammy Watkins and Allen Lazard because this guy is versatile. He's big. He's explosive. He's fast. He's got ability to break tackles. I've seen this guy do a variety of different stuff. Very explosive athlete. Not a lot of cards out for him. Some stuff very interesting. He's a guy that's going to step in and get opportunity from Aaron Rodgers day one. Right, day one, he's going to put a squeeze. He's a guy I'm looking to invest in, potentially flip in 2022, as I know the Packers are headed for the playoffs again, the NFC North. They got Aaron Rodgers, future Hall of Fame. Another winner from this draft, Matt Ryan, the Indianapolis Colts. They drafted Alec Pierce, interesting wide receiver prospect from Cincinnati. He's got a nice athletic profile. He's going to be a nice complementary role across from Michael Pittman Jr. They also drafted Jelani Woods, a top 2nd-ranked tight end in this draft class, next to Trey McBride, a big body tight end to go alongside Mo Alley Cox. So there's going to be a lot of weapons. They also improved the offensive line. There's going to be a lot of weapons for Matt Ryan, former MVP, multi-time Pro Bowler, in the Hall of Fame based on his stats alone. I think his prices have got to go up at some point in 2022. He's one of those more safe investments. It's going to take a lot more. It's going to take wins. It's going to take playoffs to really get hype built up behind him. But certainly, Michael Pittman Jr., right? He's getting a big quarterback upgrade in Matt Ryan, dude. He is going to be the Julio Jones for all intents and purposes in that Indianapolis offense, man. After what we saw him do last year in contested catch scenarios, route running, getting behind defenses and making big plays, breaking tackles, the whole 9 yards, he's got the experience. He's going to build immediate rapport and chemistry with Matt Ryan. He's going to be the number 1 guy there. A lot of sales volume, still deals to be had. I think his stock continues to go up. Right now, he's going at the end of the 5th round, right? So, and there's some more teams I didn't cover. Like, I think the Chicago Bears had a terrible draft as well. They drafted Velus Jones from Tennessee. I mean, it's nothing to get excited about. It's a project-type player. They didn't really get any weapons for Fields. It was a difficult draft for them as well. Another guy I didn't mention was Daniel Jones on the Giants. I thought they had a good draft. They started off strong with Evan Neal, the highest-ranked tackle from Alabama, arguably, outside of like Ike Ekwonu from North Carolina State. So it was like, boom, we got excited about Daniel Jones. We still do because they didn't draft a quarterback whatsoever, but they made a kind of a bonehead decision in the 2nd, getting Wan'Dale Robinson, who's a small gadget type of player who looks very interesting. He did some incredible stuff in college, right? But he is a gadget style player. He's closely comparable to like that of Kadarius Toney, who they've already gotten. Maybe that's a sign they're going to trade him. So maybe he's a loser from this draft, right? He is kind of a knucklehead, right? So I think ultimately Daniel Jones is a winner. It'll be interesting to see how much he wins. I definitely think there's potential just based on how cheap his cards are right now. You can certainly see those going up into the draft because he's a bona fide starter, and he's on a make-or-break year, right? They declined his 5th-year option. And so he's on the final year of his rookie contract, and he'll be on the move if he does not prove himself this year. Absolutely. The Giants, he's in a make-or-break year. We can see him overperform. New GM, new head coach, new offensive coordinator. You know, they got all this new stuff there, and you see it. Prices are still very cheap. You could look at and potentially investing in Mac Jones and making some money off of him in September, certainly, right? Big media market. Another loser from this draft is Josh Jacobs, man. If you and I've noticed that some of the prices on Josh Jacobs are astronomical. So I would say if you've got Josh Jacobs autos that you're holding, those cards come with a premium. Like, look how expensive some of these Josh Jacobs autographed cards are. I would absolutely be selling Josh Jacobs autographed cards right now, because in round 4 they drafted Zamir White from Georgia, and you know, this is going to put a total squeeze on Josh Jacobs. This is going to force him into a committee because he hasn't been able to put together a whole season of healthy play. And they strengthened their guard. And not only did they draft Zamir White, they also draft Britton Brown from UCLA in round 7. So they're showing clear signal that they have a need at running back. And Josh Jacobs is not the bell cow. He can't handle that type of workload. And the Raiders are in a very difficult decision. I think Josh Jacobs is one of those guys that right now his prices are way too high. He's on the selling end, right? He's on the selling end, and I'm looking to potentially get Zamir White and flip him because the anticipation is that Zamir White could take over that backfield. Definitely going to put a squeeze on Jacobs, push him to more of a third down, breather, receiving role, right? Zamir White comes in, a dog from Georgia, right? And just puts a total squeeze on Jacobs. He's a loser from this draft. Of course, you know, Derek Carr's stock should continue to go up as everything else in that offense is incredible. That's it for me here now, guys. I'm going to leave you with this, and I know we crammed through a ton of winners and losers in this video. I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below. Like, who have you been motivated to buy? Who do you think is your favorite winner and loser from the draft? And I'll catch you in that next video. Thanks for stopping by the quest. Peace.